Hari Om and welcome to Live Vedanta, a podcast about simple living and high thinking. With this episode, we're wrapping up our Bhagavad Gita 101 series. If you missed a previous episode or you just want to start from the beginning, go to our show notes. We have the links for where you can get started. But let's dive right in. What is the one thing an enlightened person does that helps them become free once and for all? And how can we do the same? In this very last episode of Bhagavad Gita 101, Vivekji teaches us a powerful verse to guide us in leading ourselves to independent joy. Let's tune in.
Hari Om and greetings from Niagara Falls. Most songs are pleasing. Do you agree with this statement or disagree? I think we agree. You go to any station on the radio and most songs are pleasing. Not all, but most. However, to be captivated by a song, you have to be capable of understanding and appreciating that song. Do you agree with that statement? As an example, I don't understand and I don't appreciate many classical Indian songs because I don't have that training. I'm ignorant. Just like all of you are with Pearl Jam. Yes? I'm enlightened when it comes to Pearl Jam. Our applied Gita course has a focus on application. Application is when you capture your ability. This is the difference between ability and capability. The thesaurus will say they're the same. In application, they're different. How much of your potential are you living? As we complete our course, if we've applied ourselves, body, breath, mind, intellect, ego, we will see the song that is Bhagavad Gita more. We will feel the song more. We will live the song more. In May, we are focusing on applied Gita in freeing. How to be free once and for all. Not a lifetime, but all lifetimes. Srimad Bhagavad Gita has a focus on Dharma, which is our unchanging responsibility. Now, what do you think Dharma's focus is? On Brahma, which is infinite nature. Please be clear about that. Srimad Bhagavad Gita is not about the means. Srimad Bhagavad Gita is about the ends. Infinite nature. But how do you feel, how do you live this infinite nature? Through the means, which is our unchanging responsibility. In chapter 12, verse 20, what we explored was converting values into virtues. In Sanskrit, this is called bhagya. One who is fortunate is one who is virtuous. And when one is established in all virtues, then one really is Bhagwan. Bhagya is the means, Bhagwan is the end. In this shloka, Bhagavan Krishna said, "Such a seeker who's converting values into virtues is very dear to me, as in, is one with me." We then move to chapter 18, verse 66, where the emphasis is a shift in dependence. We are dependent on our own effort. In this verse, what Bhagavan Krishna is sharing is, your effort can only take you so far. You have to evolve, you have to let go and depend on me. Depend on my effort. What Swami Tejomayananda shared in our Tulsi Ramayana course when I was in the ashram. In Kali Yuga, an age of sheer selfishness, you have to depend on his or her effort to be freed from selfishness. Your own effort cannot take you to selflessness. You need to ask for help. This is why in Kali Yuga, japa is so impactful. You have to depend on that effort, not your own effort. The same is shared in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. For all who are in the Vedanta and Ramayana course, as Swami Prakashananda shared, Bhagavad Gita is the script and Ramayana is the play, as I've been highlighting. And finally, our final shloka of our course. Chapter 2, verse 55. Do you all know that we also explored chapter 2, verse 54? Do you also know we explored chapter 2, verse 76? There's not 76 shlokas in that chapter. You do know that, yes? Such commitment to facts that all of us are engaged in. Chapter 2, verse 54, what we explored was, how does an enlightened person think and speak and sit and walk? In other words, how do they act? And we explored this verse in our course simply to think more deeply. We can empathize with our family, we can empathize with our friends. Can we also empathize with the greatest? And now in this verse, we come to the answer. This verse is to be the lighthouse for our living. This is the verse that should be our biography, our eulogy. This is the beginning of the Sthita Prajna Lakshanas. Lakshanas means indicators. Prajna means wisdom. Sthita means unchanging wisdom, or indications of one who knows their infinite nature. And though lakshanas is used in a plural, there is only one indication of one who is enlightened, and that is this verse. I believe there's 18 verses from 55 to 72. The remaining 17 verses are simply a commentary, an elaboration on this verse. Have I built this up enough, or shall I continue? Do I keep building, or do I get into the verse? Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, Prajahati Yada Kaman, Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atmanyevatmana tushtaha stitaprajnastadochate. This is a deep verse, so please listen carefully. Prajahati means to let go completely. Not even 1% of holding. Jahati is like jahana, like letting go, jhana. And that prefix of pra means fully, entirely, recklessly. What? Kaman. What is the English word for kama? Share with me in the chat room. The English word. Desire. That's right. Yada. Yada means when. When you are able to free yourself of desire fully. That's the first quarter. Now the depth of this implication. First of all, what do you desire? Share with me. What do you desire? Now you're all going to write enlightenment, Vivekji. Are you serious? This morning while you were having cereal and coffee, you were thinking about, I just desire enlightenment. I pray so, but I also pray for honesty. Our three locuses of desire are putreshana, vitteshana, and lokeshana. Eshana means desire. So the first is the desire for putra. And people literally interpret this as son, or child, or children. The deeper meaning is pleasure. The desire for pleasure. Now you know where this framework is going. Then what is vitteshana? The desire for possessions. And lokeshana, the desire for position. Pleasure, possession, position. You must be annoyed hearing this from me so many times. When these desires are let go of. Okay. Why do we have these desires? The desires we have, the eshanas, the cause for these is known as vikshepa or projection. Desires come from projection. And for those who are joining in Meaningful Mornings, I've shared, this is what the ego does. The ego identifies, the ego separates, and the ego, remind me, what is the third and the most expressive part of the ego? You got this. Expects, yes, expects. And I had shared the ego expects in 3 ways. From grosser to subtler. In the grossest way, recognition. My name on the wall. Subtler than that is appreciation. This happens very much at a family level. You don't appreciate me. And the subtlest, and I find myself struggling with this, is being included, inclusion. So, recognition, appreciation, but the subtlest is inclusion. No one wants to be excluded. Yes? So, Ashana or desire comes from vikshepa or projection. Now go deeper. Vikshepa is the effect. What is the cause for vikshepa? What is the cause for projection? Avidya, yes. And here I'm going to share incompleteness. I feel incomplete, so I project completeness on articles, beings, and circumstances, or pleasure, possession, position, and then I start to desire them. Do you all feel the genesis? Now, if one doesn't have desire, that also means one doesn't have projection, which also means one doesn't have incompleteness. We move on to the second quarter. Sarvan Partha Manogatan. He's addressing Prince Arjuna as Partha. All of these desires, all, Sarvan, they're gone. Gata, from the mana. Does the mind have desires? No. Before you answer, I'll say no. The intellect has desires, or ashana. The mind has thoughts, or vrittis. And then the body has actions, or karma. So what this first line is sharing, the absence of desires means there's no incompleteness, there's no projection, there's also no thoughts and no actions. If one is removed, that means all of them are removed. Yes? So that very comprehensive indication is shared by Bhagavan Krishna. What I want you to remember is, with this first line, there is no more becoming. Becoming. Our actions and thoughts and desires and projections and incompleteness is all to become complete. But here, one who is free, what else would you want to become? What else would you need to become other than free? We move to the third quarter. How is it that one doesn't have a desire? Atmani eva atmana tushtaha. Show me tushtaha. We're usually used to pushtaha, you know? Eating a lot, being healthy. This is not pushtaha. This is tushtaha. Pushtaha is outside, tushtaha is inside. For any of you who travel to India, your family thinks that you're sick, correct? You don't eat enough. Your family doesn't look after you. Pushtaha. One is content. Tushtaha means content. In what? The relative self is content with the absolute self. The word Atman is used twice. So small s self, big S self. Okay. I had shared in our review of the Meditation and Life course, and I really enjoyed our review. I don't think anyone else enjoyed it, but I enjoyed it a lot. I am in awe that Swami Chinmaya has taken the Yoga Sutra and made it available to us. I explained what the word samadhi meant or means. Sam means full, well. A means full, And dhi means placed. When the relative self, body, breath, mind, intellect, and specifically ego, is well and fully placed in the spirit, then what does one experience? Joy, contentment, ananda. That's what this quarter is highlighting. One who knows their infinite nature, they are living in samadhi. How we can relate to this? We have to build up our relative self. Your body has to be calm. Your breath has to be natural. Your mind has to be quiet. Your intellect has to be still. When you build up your relative self, you feel more confident, no? You have the confidence that, I'm going to go back to the meditation and life course again. You know what the reflection adventure of the lifetime is that I shared with everyone? You should plan for your enlightenment. In this lifetime, you will be enlightened. That degree of confidence one has to have. And when you do have that degree of confidence, you will start to depend on the absolute self. But if you lack that confidence, you will still depend on the relative self instead of the absolute self. You'll still be logical rather than faithful. This quarter is sharing one has to depend on the absolute self. Sthita prajnas tadocchate uchchate. This is known as, this is shared as prajna. Jnana, or knowledge, is I know God. Prajna, or wisdom, is I am God. I know happiness and I am happiness are completely different. Even in the negative, I know COVID and I have COVID are very different, yes, in the negative. So obviously the positive would apply too. I know happiness and I am happiness is different. Sthita. Sthita means firm, stable, unchanging. What's fascinating about this whole section of Bhagavad Gita is we treat this to be extraordinary, when what this should be is normal. Asthita should be abnormal. Correct? We've completely changed that paradigm. Not following Vedanta is normal. Following Vedanta is abnormal. Dependent joy is normal. Independent joy? What's wrong with you? That's why I love this verse. I love that last quarter. This is normalcy. To summarize this verse, this is the verse. This is the verse of the Applied Gita course. To feel the logic and possibility of being independently joyous. If any of you have thought about, why does he keep saying independently joyous? This has come from that third quarter. Atmanyevatmana tushtaha. When you depend on the self, that is the same as independent joy. Logically, this is possible. And faithfully, this is possible. Let's chant together. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Partha Manogatan Atman Yevatmana Tushtaha Stita Prajnastadocchate. The verses that follow are lovely. Verses that talk about letting go of Vita, Raga, Bhaya, Krodha. One who's content, one who's independent. They have no attachment. They have no fear. They have no anger. And on and on and on. We began. You were waiting for my own. We began our Applied Gita course with the plan to explore 35 verses out of 700. What is 35 divided by 700? Quickly, type it in calculator, Google calculator. 5%. Not 20, we have not studied 20% of Bhagavad Gita. We've studied 5% of Bhagavad Gita. And what we're going to do now is study 1% of Bhagavad Gita. The 35 verses that I've navigated with you, I'm now going to condense into 9 verses. 1 verse per month, 1 verse per application. If this verse is the lighthouse, all of the 9 verses I'm going to share with you are the steps to get to that light. Listen carefully. Take lots of notes. In September, we began with evolving. And the verse, we studied again, 4 verses per month, other than this month. The verse that I want you to hold on to is chapter 2, verse 7. In this chapter, in this verse, Prince Arjuna shares with Bhagavan Krishna, I need help. I need help in a relative way. I definitely need help in an absolute way. Our application here is become honest. Become honest. Be honest about your weaknesses. Be honest about your strengths. In October, we moved on to deciding. Applied Gita and deciding. We went to chapter 18, verse 37. And what this verse highlights is focusing on happiness is hard in the beginning and easy at the end. First poison and then nectar. That's a very non-Western example. What example would you use for nectar? Lemonade? Iced tea? Condensed milk? I want you to come up with an example for nectar. I think in India they appreciate nectar more. Whenever we have to make decisions, we should think long term. Think about independent joy. Become productive. Our application is become productive. So become honest, become productive. In November, communicating. Chapter 17, verse 15. That is your verse. Bhagavan Krishna taught us how we should speak. All we speak should be truthful, useful, and beautiful. Become careful. Become careful with what you say, especially with the internet, no? Who owns all of the photographs that you post? Mark Zuckerberg. You think you own those? You don't think these Zoom workshops are monitored? be careful with what you say, what you don't say, how you don't say. In December, relating, and this was verse 9 of chapter 6, I shared with you that there's 10 different types of personalities, 9 specific ones, and the 10th is in general. I shared this as the ugly, the bad, and the good. That's the framework that I moved up through. And our application is become understanding. Become understanding that there's all sorts of people. And those sorts of people change even more based on the circumstance. If they're hungry, they change. If they're happy, they change. In January, we continued to working. And our verse here is 11 of chapter 13. 13:11. This is the beginning. This is values that are needed to tune into knowledge. And what I shared was, when you work, don't work for a check. Work for your own growth. Don't work for the growth of the company. Work for your own growth. And what's universal about this message is, it's not professional. There's lots of students in this course. There's lots of volunteers in this course. There's lots of professionals. Any work you're doing should be for your own growth. And the harder the work, the more the growth. So, become reflective. All of the work, all of the school, whatever you're doing, become reflective. How can you grow through this? In February, we moved on to parenting. And we took up chapter 4, verse 28. As a parent, all you do is give, period. You get nothing. But tired and depleted. I don't teach these classes for you. This is my therapy. This is my venting on my living and my lifestyle. Become dedicated. This is a section on yajnas. And the typical definition of yajna is sacrifice. But you only sacrifice if you're dedicated. So become dedicated. And if you are, you won't even know you're sacrificing, right? In our meditation and life course, one of our writers, he was sharing, I've been one of our writers for 2 years. He was only writing for 1 year. But it was such torture for him that he felt it was like 2 years. Jokingly. But really, if you are so dedicated, then everything you do is a play, is a joy, right? I find that to be very absent with parenting, is that parents don't enjoy playing with their kids. Today, Shuk and I had a great time in Vyasa's room, just hanging out. We're friends. We high-five each other. In March, we continued to resolving. How do you resolve conflict, outside, inside? And we explored chapter 6, verse 35. 6:35. Abhyasa and Vairagya. You have to try to be the bigger person. How do you resolve conflict? Don't expect the other to make that resolution. You have to make that resolution, which means you have to be the bigger person. More suhrid, which means large-hearted. Become enduring. Endure public perception. You stick to what is dharma, what is righteous, and endure what people think and say and act towards you. They may have a conflict, but you don't have a conflict then. In April, challenging. How do you apply yourself in challenges, outside and inside? Chapter 11, verse 33. 11:33. Nimitta matram bhava savyasachi. One who has no weakness is one who knows that they are not the doer, but they are a instrument. Doership, instrumentship, observership, and then beership. Only someone in this course would know what beership means. Become responsible. And you especially need to know this during our present challenge. Focus on what you're responsible for and let go of what you're not responsible for. Arjuna's suffering from stress, anxiety, sadness due to this war or challenge. And Bhagavan Krishna says, hey, this is your responsibility. The rest is mine. Chill out. Don't freak out, freak in. And finally, May, freeing. Chapter 18, verse 66, which I just reviewed. Be the cat. Sri Ramakrishna describes you can be like a monkey or a cat in terms of your relationship with your creator. She, he. The monkey holds on to the neck of the mother as the mother moves around. You've seen videos of that? What does the kitten do? Just plops itself. And what does the mother do? Carries that kitten in her mouth, wherever that cat is going. You have to shift your dependence. Who's exerting that effort? Become visionary. A visionary is one who's seeing past the ego. Everyone caught the chapters and verses? I'm going to share the becomes again. Become honest, become productive, become careful, become understanding, become reflective, become dedicated, become enduring, become responsible, and become visionary. Now, anyone who's listening carefully, which you all are, this word become is not a word that I'm fond of. I describe this as bhavaroga, the disease of becoming, yes? But this becoming is leading one to being. See, there's an unbecoming and there's a becoming. All that we have explored over 9 months, 35 verses, all of this becoming is a build-up to being. One who is content, one who is independently joyous. They have nothing to gain, so they have nothing to lose. No gain, no loss. They're being. Nandati, nandati, nandati eva. That's how Acharya Shankara describes one who's a sthita prajna. They enjoy. All they do is not enjoy. You must be really annoyed with my navigation of these words. See, this is the benefit of being poor with English. That was my poorest subject in high school, and then I just stopped studying it after high school. Once it became non-mandatory, I'm out. It's conducive to studying philosophy because philosophy is not about the technicalities. It's about the bhava. Beership.
If you enjoyed what you heard or want to learn more, share this episode with a friend or find us online at facebook.com/cmniagara. For those on the journey of self-development, Chinmaya Mission Niagara provides a community forum for seekers to listen, reflect, and contemplate. This podcast is produced by the Young Adults of Chinmaya Mission, an international nonprofit working to transform individuals through the knowledge of Vedanta. Until next time, inspire, love, be.